Let's talk about what he says. First of all, he said Britain, or he said Europe, but obviously that includes Britain, is going to be overwhelmed. And then actually, I think rather extraordinary, he said, enemies are driving migrants to our shores. Now, can you ever remember a British Prime Minister using language like this to describe, this migrant crisis?
No, even left-leaning people like myself remember fondly David Cameron, the way he used to talk about refugees, which is a lot friendlier than the language that Rishi Sunak is using now. I have 2 points to make on that, though. One, it is true that sometimes countries will allow illegal migrants to flow through to the next country so that the problem doesn't stay with them. And it is something that we have heard happening in other European countries as well. For example,
he didn't say that. Let me just remind you of what he said. He said hostile states, not people traffickers, not bad people, hostile states driving people to our shore. So, you say countries sort of letting people go isn't the same as saying, they're pushing people here, which seems to be what he's saying.
I wonder what evidence he has to say that. I wonder whether he has any evidence, any actual intelligence to make such a bold statement, or whether it's just that he imagined that this is the kind of thing the voters would like to hear. Because also, it makes you seem like a bit of a leadership figure when you say something like that, right? Oh, we're being overwhelmed. They're sending all of these people here. Our enemies, my enemies are out to get me. It does make him seem like there is an emergency, and the person obviously to solve it is Rishi Sunak himself. However, I want to also comment on the overwhelming migration of Europe. I don't think Europe is about to become overwhelmed by immigration in a practical sense. I think we are being overwhelmed in an emotional sense, in the same way that a teenager would be emotionally overwhelmed when they have exams coming over and they have schoolwork and all of that.
750,000 people coming. Have you tried to get a doctor's appointment recently, Stella?
I have an excellent GP, so I get an appointment.
Well, okay, but I mean, so I think what he's really saying about overwhelmed is Britain's infrastructure, not the people.
Yes.
But I say, go on any train and motorway, try and get a GP's appointment. It does feel like we are straining at the seams. Now, I'm going to bring Madeline in because, Madeline, pretty punchy language. Do you think Rishi sort of is this because we are going into 2024, the election year? Is this sort of the ramping up of this rhetoric? Is it something we're going to see more of?
Well, I think he is describing a reality. He is describing unprecedented numbers, the like of which we have genuinely never seen before, even at other times when migration was considered to be very high. In the John Major time, it was something like 50,000 net migration a year, and then it grew significantly under Tony Blair. But the current numbers that are occurring today dwarf all of that stuff. So I do think there's a certain amount of reality here. And as for the point about language, I mean, David Cameron talked about a swarm of migrants. Theresa May said some pretty fruity stuff, and there was the go-home vans and all of that stuff. So I don't think this is really crossing some kind of terrible Rubicon. I mean, I don't really understand what's so divisive about the words overwhelming. It's certainly a lot of people in Britain feel that our public services and our infrastructure are
go down the Black Dog in Crawshaw Booth in Rosendale on a Friday night. This is the sort of language
and actually,
people use.
And also the point about enemies deliberately driving people to our shores. Again, that's nothing new either. I mean, last year, Lukashenko in Belarus was weaponising his border to destabilise things in Poland and elsewhere. Under Gaddafi, there were attempts to blackmail the West by opening Libya to migrants in 2010. And of course, after what happened with the war in Syria, this led to a massive decline in Western solidarity and a temporary suspension of the Schengen agreement because the numbers coming through Europe were so extraordinary, and this led to great friction between Western nations. So actually, I do think that is true, and it's something
we're being overwhelmed.
And also, of course, it's always the Western liberal countries that is the direction of migration goes towards these countries. So in a way, it's countries like China, North Korea, the bad countries of the world. This is not a problem they have to contend with. It's a problem that's for the West, the countries that people actually want to go to.
We're going to keep talking about this. Stella, on the issue of language, do you agree with David Blunkett when he said the country is being swamped?
I think that's not language I would want to use to describe human beings. I think it's dehumanising. And frankly, this country is built on so many there are so many immigrants that have given so much to this country. I don't think it's fair.
Hugely positive migration.
Yeah.
But
Migration.
you can have too much of a good thing. I think